Hobby friends, we have another card thief that has been arrested, and are we looking at a slowish national this year as far as attendance goes? Let's dive in. What's going on to all my sports card hobby friends and family? Hope that you're doing amazingly well today.
I think I finally got some sleep.
It's Monday and we try to grind away as we always do.
You take the card and put it in the sleeve.
Big thanks to today's video sponsor, COMC.com. 25% off all service levels going through June 17th. Make sure to take advantage. I actually have a bunch of cards that I need to send in. The Celtics doing so well. I've got a bunch of Jaylen Brown cards randomly that I was looking at. I'm like, man, I need to send these to COMC. But anyway, 25% off through June 17th. One more week of it. 35 plus million cards on the COMC site. Buy, sell, all the good times. So definitely check out my links down below to start your COMC journey. Also, don't forget to join the newsletter while you're down there in the links. It's a free newsletter. I've got a free SlabMag that's going to go out to somebody that is subscribed to the newsletter. So make sure that you remember to do that. It's very easy. And again, it's free. And friends, going back to the Best Western debacle, the $2.1 million of cards, the package that was swiped down there at the Best Western, getting ready for the Strongsville card show. Another guy has been arrested. And this is, I think, kind of an interesting one. I wanted to share this with viewership because there's been a lot of talk around stolen goods here lately and how to handle that and what should we do. I know Jeremy Lee had a show, I Bought Stolen Cards was kind of the headline. And of course, he didn't mean to buy stolen cards. He accidentally bought stolen cards. And that's kind of a big one because the second guy that got arrested here, he is charged with a felony for receiving stolen property. Now, some of you might think, okay, if you bought stolen cards, you're receiving stolen property. But if you don't know that you're receiving stolen property, where the problem lies is you know some guy's like, hey, we're going to take these cards and you're going to hold them for me. And I know this might seem really basic to viewership as to like, well, of course you shouldn't do that. But I think in this hobby, there's kind of a lot of gray out there where people do things where it's like, is this right? Is it not right? Even though, like, obviously it's wrong. But this is an important lesson for anybody that, hey man, can you hold these cards for me? There might be a little bit of a backstory with these. I might have accidentally stolen them, whatever. And for your buddy, maybe you're like, sure, I'll hold these for a week or something. This is kind of what happened here. I don't know how it went down with these two. I don't know if they planned it from the start or if this guy freaked out and was like, hey, hold my stuff for me. But the second guy is getting charged with a felony, just like the first guy is getting charged with a felony. There are still two cards that are outstanding. A PSA 8 1941 play ball Ted Williams, which is a huge card. And then a PSA 5 1909 Ramley. I'm not aware of the Ramley set. Walter Johnson card, obviously pre-war. It's an expensive card. Both of these cards are big cards and they're still hanging out there in the wild. According to Sports Collectors Daily, where I did see this first reported, Strongsville police still holding on to all the cards that have been recovered. They're still trying to work out with the auction house, with Memory Lane, the buyers and the sellers, and how it's all going to go down. Do the buyers want to cancel their bids? Do they want to continue to buy these? So still trying to work out those details. But from that article, it was basically saying that Strongsville police still holding on to those cards until it gets worked out. So still, man, for Memory Lane auctions, that is just a tremendous ordeal to deal with. I think probably every auction house is looking at all of their logistical type things and like, okay, how are we doing this? Hey guys, how are we shipping this? How are we delivering? Like probably looking at all their stuff to make sure that this doesn't happen to them. And hopefully it's just an isolated incident when it comes to these monstrous type cards. Because here, the problem with these types of cards, with a lot of these, when you've got a roughly 50 cards that are worth $2 million, you can't really replace the cards, and that's the thing when you get into like high grade pre-war baseball, you can't replace the cards. There's not available copies. It's not a Prism base, PSA 10, whatever, that you can just very easily replace. And that's the problem with this, is you might be able to recover money back. Like if you're the seller, the buyer in this transaction, maybe you could recover some money from insurance, but you can't recover the card. And that's where people get really upset because there are certain cards, even on the ultra modern side, it might be a 1 of 1. It might be numbered out of 10. If it gets lost or destroyed, you might be able to get your money back, but you can't get that card back. So that's the thing that's, it's an ordeal. It's an ordeal. So hopefully that gets worked out. It's an isolated incident moving forward. Second part of the video, are we looking at a slow national in Cleveland? I saw that there's still VIP passes available on the website, which those are usually sold out by now. Usually sold out a couple months ago. If we look back at the last few years, Cleveland's facing some issues that we don't see kind of in that Chicago, Rosemont area. And of course, logistically, that's the easiest spot to run the national. Now, I can't say that's the easiest for them who run the national, but for the customer, the collector, the hobbyist that's coming in to visit the show, you've got restaurants and hotels everywhere right around the convention center. It's very easy. This year, I'm doing some logistical stuff with some of my buddies. We've got a thing on Friday night that's going to be downtown. That's about 15-20 minute drive from the convention center. I did hear that there is going to be trade nights every night at the convention center. That's a rumor, I guess. I don't think that's been confirmed. But every single night there should be something there. So I guess hopefully people don't have to leave to go to a trade night. But with the National, it's always the case where you've got the things that are happening there at the convention center, but you have off-site things going on. And, there'll be something downtown. We're staying in an Airbnb that's not downtown, different part of town. So it's kind of like we're all going to be kind of spread out in a similar way that it was in Atlantic City, but much further. In Atlantic City, we were spread like different hotels that were easy to kind of maneuver between, but it's still like way, way different than what we're going to see this year in Cleveland. And then, of course, we've got the elephant in the room that we've been talking about here, and it's the Fanatics events that are coming right on the back of the National. 2 weeks after the National is the Fan Fest in New York City, the Fanatics show, and I know a lot of people that are up in the air on which one to go to. Maybe they've been going to the National, but they're really intrigued by the Fanatics event. They're like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to just go in and do the New York City one. Maybe it's more easy for them to get to the New York City event than it is to try to travel into Cleveland, which makes sense too. I saw on Twitter, Ivan at the Breaks, which he's a huge card Twitter account. He's got 50,000 followers on Twitter, and he is a card channel. So it's not as if he's tweeting about all these other different things. He's a card guy. The first time I ever saw Ivan, he was on Go GTS show, where they do their weekly shows and different things, hobby happenings and that sort of stuff. And now he's moved on. He's doing some other things. But Ivan said in a tweet and he said, I can't believe I'm actually writing this, but I am not attending the National this year. I am going to Fanatics Fan Fest in New York City. And again, these are going to be two different events where National is going to be, of course, a giant card show / museum, whereas that Fanatics event is going to be more of a fan event. It's not going to be as much of a card show. But as I said, on the back of that New York show, they've got a Pittsburgh show. I'm not exactly sure how that one's going to run, but I heard the Orlando show, which I'm probably going to go to in early November, is a 900 table card show. If that's true and that holds up, that's a massive card show down there in Orlando. And so it could very well be that Fanatics has their fan events, kind of like New York City, where it's just going to be more about fans meeting with athletes and then mixing in collectibles in there a little bit. And then they have separately a massive card show type fan event, I guess, or card event, for hobbyists that maybe is more tailored towards their Topps products and everything they've got going on the collectible side. It's going to be really interesting to watch and see kind of how all these shows play out. How is the attendance? But look, the truth is there's not less demand. If the National's slower, let's say that instead of 100,000 people going to the National, there's 50,000. It's still a lot of people, but it's not as if there's less demand for cards and collectibles. It's just now we have more competition, and we see it everywhere. Whether that's card manufacturers, whether that's grading companies. I was contacted just last week by a new grading company, and it happens fairly frequently. There is more competition coming in. On the content side, on YouTube, there's a lot more YouTube content around sports cards and collectibles than I've ever seen, ever. And that's with prices moving down and people supposedly getting out and whatever. For all the people that have gotten out, there's probably 2 or 3 that have replaced them over the last couple of years on the content side, and frankly, probably on the collector / hobbyist side as well. So it's always kind of a cyclical churn. maybe a churn and burn type situation, but there's not less demand for trading cards and collectibles right now, but definitely a lot of competition on, and we're not even talking about, Dallas Card Show that's every other month that's very busy. The Midwest Monster. You've got card shows that are all over the place. Michael Ham's down there in Tampa. They got a bunch of card shows all going on. There's card shows going on everywhere. A lot of competition. I'm actually curious to see at the National this year if there's going to be deals again. A National that I did not go to was 2019. I started going after that. There wasn't a National, obviously, in 2020 because of the pandemic, but in 2019, I remember Gary Vee famously saying that he had bought 30 or 40 Luka Doncic Prism base PSA 10s for like $30, and he was selling them for $60, and he would buying and selling, flipping those, and then of course they went skyward from there. But my point is, though, if you think about that statement in 2019 summer, which is right before things started really cooking. Now that was a busy National from what I've heard, and it's not as if it was dead at the 2019 National and all of a sudden it shot up. It was already trending upward. There's already excitement at that 2019 National, a lot more interest, and then it just really went parabolic kind of in that fall leading into 2020. But there was still a lot of deals to be had at that 2019 National if you compare it to today's prices, even after the crash of a lot of card prices. That we talk about it here, this card down 90% or this down 50% or whatever. Still, will there be deals this year, maybe that we haven't seen in years at the National? So that'll be kind of interesting, and that's something I want to report on when I'm out there, is just to kind of look at pricing. Is stuff starting to come back to reality a little bit more to where we were pre-pandemic, the same way we've seen it done online quite a bit? All right, my friends, are you going to the National? Let me know in the thoughts below. What is your trade show schedule looking like for the rest of the year? Whether it be the National, Fanatics, Strongsville show, Midwest Monster, all of these different types of shows, Dallas card shows. Let me know in the comments, what are you trying to go to? What are you excited about on the sports card show side of things? All right, my friends, stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.